the king and the ink stink. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. As you know, my channel is all about narcissism, identifying narcissists, explaining why narcissists behave in the way that we do, the practical tips that can be given to you to enable you to navigate your life in a more effective way when dealing with our kind, and much, much more besides. I make frequent use of news articles and videos to enable you to understand narcissism in action. And of course, we have a glorious opportunity at the moment with a narcissist having come to the throne of the United Kingdom as King Charles III. I appreciate that some of you doubt that he is. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're wrong. And based upon substantial evidence, it supports that he is what he is. This means that his activities and actions are all governed by the prime aims. Subconsciously, he has to seek out control, maintain control, nullify threats to control. He must draw fuel from people, garner character traits and residual benefits. And we have an early snippet that provides us with his narcissism in action, which all revolves around the inkwells and the fountain pen, whereby he created a bit of a stink in relation to the ink. I'm going to play the relevant footage for you a couple of times and then analyse it, explaining what it is that you see so that you can see part of his narcissism in action. Let us bring on the clip. Now, before I provide you with the analysis, what have people's observations been about this incident that has been seen many times? Well, the list states why King Charles's accession council was almost overshadowed by a pen. In an article by Laura Michelle, she writes, "As with any momentous occasion in life, there is always paperwork, and King Charles III officially taking the throne is no exception. The new monarch had the task of signing the royal proclamation declaring him king on Saturday, following the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, on September the 8th. As can be seen in the video, King Charles III sat at a small desk, pulled a pen from his pocket, dipped it into an ink well, and set about signing two oversized documents. When he reached to sign the second, a pen box was in the way, and King Charles III, with a grimace look on his face, gave it a little push towards a waiting assistant, who promptly removed it. When he was finished, the king repocketed the pen, leaving William, Prince of Wales, to ask for the pen box to be returned so that he could have something with which to sign the papers. Not even the following trumpet salute or the continued mourning of Queen Elizabeth II could distract the public's attention from the pen incident, as memes and observations have been appearing on social media. One Twitter user noted, "King Charles is just so done with that pen tray, leaving William hunting for one. Priceless moment in the hashtag proclamation," while another remarked, "Couldn't they have got a bigger table? King Charles, Prince William and the Queen Consort all having to work around the pen tray, an inkwell squeezed onto the table about the size for balancing a TV dinner on." Something called Narcissy, with an article by Josh Elliott, also embraces what happened by explaining King Charles III waited decades for the chance to sit on the throne, and now that he's there, it seems that moving a few things off a desk is beneath him. The newly crowned monarch wasted no time in giving the internet something to raise an eyebrow at over the weekend, when he low-key lost it over a few items that were cluttering up his desk. The brief moment happened Saturday, at the council ceremony, where Charles was formally declared king. A video of the incident shows the king moving to sit at his desk after a signing, then pausing and getting flustered at a few pens and an inkwell on the desk. He waves emphatically at the pens a few times, then a servant steps in to remove them from his sight. Camilla, the queen consort, can be seen watching the whole thing unfold from behind him. Now the internet is tearing into the 73-year-old king as video of the incident has blown up online. "Start as you mean to go on," reads a Twitter caption with the originally shared video, which has been watched well over 25 million times since Saturday. "Why couldn't he just move them to one side himself?" asked one commentator. "Hard-working royals, can he shift a wee desk ornament a couple of inches?" wrote another user. "Pressure tends to show you the person's true character," observed another. "He is definitely far from regal, despite 70-plus years of training and interning." Others blasted Charles as entitled and privileged in the retweets. Queen Elizabeth II's death triggered a wave of mourning last week, along with celebrations around Charles's long-awaited promotion to king. However, there have also been calls to abolish the monarchy now that the crown has passed to the Queen's less popular son. All eyes have been on Charles ever since his mother's death, as the United Kingdom and the wider world wait to see what he'll be like in the big job. So, observations made about him, describing him as entitled and privileged and so forth. But what is it that you are actually witnessing? Well, of course, remember, as a narcissist, and there are people around him, he's being governed by his narcissism. So, as he sits there and he signs the first proclamation, little raise of the eyebrows, signature, swipe of the pen, shoves it to one side, onto the second one. Now, right, okay, organise that. Inkwell's in the way, no problem. I'll move them to one side, shift the pen top, and now those pens are in the way. Rather than just move them, perhaps placing them over to the other side of the desk, placing them on the original proclamation, of course, they amount to a threat to control, because they're stopping him doing something important in the full view of many, many people, the people in the room and those that are watching it as this proclamation signing is televised. Accordingly, at that moment, the lowly pen tray affects his control, not the tray itself, but the fact that somebody hasn't done what they ought to have done. You'll be aware, of course, that many narcissists expect you to have a telepathic understanding of what the narcissist requires. It's the same with Charles. A suitable servant or courtier should have shifted that pen tray so that he would have uninhibited access, and their failure to do so amounts to a threat to control. His narcissism, therefore, has to remove that threat to control. Rather than him turn politely and smile and say, "Would you awfully mind moving this for me?" or simply moving it himself, his narcissism erupts with his haughty ignited fury, where you see the grimace and the gesticulation for it to be moved, and you can almost hear him inside going, as he gets annoyed by this failure. There's a threat to his control as a consequence of the failure to remove the pen tray, which is then restricting his movement and making him look a little bit stupid in front of everybody. Of course, his narcissism doesn't think ahead and think, actually, by grimacing and showing this entitled behaviour makes you look worse. Law of collateral consequences at play once again. But no, his narcissism needs to quell the threat. It needs to be nullified. And so, therefore, what it does is it allows that haughtiness, the irritation to be demonstrated so that it causes the standing aid to leap into life, to remove it, and thus the threat to control has been nullified. However, there's a slight hit taken to the facade, which of course has resulted in all the various comments that have appeared across social media and the observations in that regard. Accordingly, in the circumstances, what has happened is that you have seen a threat to control, a slight ignition of fury, the application of an assertion of control directly over the situation by Charles's narcissism, and then it's dealt with. The fact that he pockets, of course, the pen shows his sense of entitlement, how it all revolves around him, leaving Prince William foundering for the return of the pen tray. Charles doesn't think ahead about others, he's dealing with himself. But this little video analysis is an excellent little demonstration of no matter how public the occasion, his own narcissism wasn't able to maintain the facade, and that expression of irritation and haughtiness came through. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank Thank you for listening.